Welcome to Unbreakable Spirit, Stories of Inspiring and Thriving, with Jennifer Seven, co-author of a book that is part of the Sisterhood Folios, a #1 international bestseller. This is a podcast about real women who've overcome tremendous obstacles and come out on the other side to thrive. Whether their hardships were financial, relational, or health, these women dug deep and found the light out of the dark to rise from the ashes, to find the ability to forgive, to love, and to live an authentic, joyful life. Now, here is your host, Jennifer Seven.
I am super excited today to have my guest, Lisa Geraci Rigoni. And let me tell you a little bit about Lisa, because I'm super excited to have her here. She is the owner and she's a CDO. And if you don't know what that is, let me share that with you. She is a Chief Declutter Officer. Very cool. Of the Organizing Mentors. Lisa has been helping her clients reclaim their space mentally and physically for more than a decade. Let me tell you a little bit about the Organizing Mentors. They service the Northern Virginia, DC metropolitan area with quite a variety of services, including home organization, sorting, purging, estate cleanout, right sizing. It will be interesting to talk about that. Selling and donating, aging in place, and relocation support. I've known Lisa for quite some time, and it's been really interesting to hear some of her stories with some of her clients, and hopefully we'll touch on some of that today. But they have included virtual organizing to their list of services and can now work worldwide. And I love that because of the environment and the world that we're in right now with COVID, that we don't have to stop organizing and decluttering just because we can't leave the house. So at least it can guide us through that. The Organizing Mentors hold the esteemed credential as Senior and Specialty Move Manager by the National Association of Senior and Specialty Move Managers. Beyond organizing space, Lisa and her team mentors empower their clients to implement best services and inspire confidence to make positive choices that enrich their lives and set them free from the habits that have kept their minds and spaces cluttered. And she's also a much sought after speaker, mentor, and author, which makes me even more excited that she's here with me today to chat. And going with the theme of this podcast, which is to talk about the trials and tribulations and obstacles that women have gone through, I have Lisa here to share her story and some of the obstacles that she's been through, but also that's brought her to where she is today, a very successful owner of a very successful business. So welcome, Lisa. Super happy to have you here.
Oh,
Yay.
Jennifer, I'm so excited. I really am. I was thrilled when you asked me, and of course said yes. Yes. I'm very excited about your podcast, getting started on your podcast and all that. Yeah, you have a lot to share with people.
Yes, there are so many stories, and this podcast is really dedicated to sharing what women in particular have gone through and how they get through it and get to the other side so that they can thrive. Because I know that so many of us have things that we really do go through, and oftentimes we don't talk about them, we don't share that, and all you see is the perfect image on the outside, but you don't know what got someone there. So Lisa, let's kind of jump in and let's hear a little bit more about your story and your journey.
Well, the thing that I think is that rings true, like first when you asked about that and how it relates to my business is, we all have our stories, we all have our moments in life that are challenging, and I've had a bunch of them. I'm getting up there in age, so we have stories, we have our things, but I think the most pertinent to the theme of your talks and what's really brought me to my business and why I think I'm pretty darn good at it is that when I found out when I was 40, we had gone through to try to get pregnant again. We had gone through 2 rounds of IVF and didn't get pregnant. It was unsuccessful. I had a daughter. She's 18 now. And we went through 2 rounds of IVF. And after that, of course I was grieving and I was mourning and, all of the emotions that you're not even aware of, when you can't get pregnant or, just having trust in my body as a woman, like, why can't my body do this? Like there were so many layers of it. But what after, I sought out a therapist for grief counseling and, and all that. And I kept working with him going, I just don't feel like myself. Like there's something, like I'm pretty aware of my body and I just didn't feel right. I felt disconnected and not focused and, just way out there, just way out there.
And
And
is that because that you think because you could get pregnant before, but now you couldn't get pregnant
I
and
don't
you
think it had anything to do with the pregnancy. And this is just
okay.
my thought on it was I believe, and I've done my research on IVF and Clomid and what it does to you. And it's great medicine. I'm not putting I'm not putting that down. It gets,
Hmm.
it gets people what they need. I think it affected me in some strange way. But what I found out, because he connected me with a therapist, with a psychiatrist, and when we went back in, because I really thought I was going crazy, even more crazy than I already thought I was.
So
Um,
who connected you with a psychiatrist? Your
my
therapist?
the grief counselor,
Oh, okay.
because he's like, I think you're bipolar. I'm like, I'm not bipolar. Like, I don't have those huge emotions. I just feel like something's not right. I can't
Mm.
focus. And, my goal every night was, is my daughter alive and is the house not burned down? Like, I just, like, I
That
had,
was as best you could
that's
do.
all I could do. Yeah. Did she
That
get fed? Did
sounds like
she,
survival. You were just
it was.
surviving.
It was. And when we did a little bit more, I went to a psychiatrist. I'm like not bipolar. Like, I'm not. And he handed me a book, and it was, "You mean I'm not lazy, stupid, or crazy?"
Hmm.
And I literally, and I do this talk a lot about, about finding this out about myself. It was a book on ADD,
Okay.
and I started crying right there when he gave me the book, because I realized at age 40 that those were the three words I used to describe myself pretty much my whole life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I thought I was either lazy, I can't get something done, or I'm crazy. Why can't I think this through? Or
Or you're not smart?
I'm not smart enough. I was that person who had to read the page over and over again because I couldn't comprehend it. So that's what I grew up with. So he said, go to on Dr. Amen's website, take this test. Well, found out I had ADD. So my whole life I had ADD. And I believe, and I don't know if this is a medical thing, but I think the hormones, the grief, the whatever stirred up in me affected me. And this came out. But what I found, and long story short, it could be longer, of course, but long story short was I found I used to organize to calm myself when I was younger.
Oh,
So when
yes.
I couldn't focus, I couldn't, like, I'm just going to go in my room and organize my pets or my
That was
books or my album.
your
That was
coping
my
skill.
coping mechanism, and it calmed me down and it gave me focus. So there's so many versions of ADD, right? It's like autism or any kind of mental illness or struggle that people have. There's so many facets. So I can get uber focused. you know
Hmm.
my ADD is not attention deficit. It's like I can't, I'm in the stratosphere somewhere. I can get uber focused, and that's one of those, things about ADD. So when I realized that, and then I started my organizing business about 13 years ago, so that's 15 years ago, right? I was like, well, this is what I want to give to my clients, is calm when they're organizing. And it's evolved. The name of my business, I think probably when I first met you, was Leave It to Lisa. Now it's the
Yes.
Organizing Mentors, because I found that I'm mentoring my clients. I've gone through a lot of what they've gone through. And my tagline is reclaim your space mentally and physically, because that's what I needed. I needed the mental organization. So when my physical space is cluttered, and most of my clients feel the same way, our mental state is just off the chart. Like you can't even
Hmm.
think. So that's been kind of my superpower now, is my ADD, is finding out I have that.
Oh gosh, I
So
love that we
yeah,
can
so
take
it's,
something that potentially has such negative
mhm.
ramifications or perceptions and turn it into a superpower. I think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
phenomenal. So let's go back for a moment to the infertility. So how
Hmm.
long were you trying to get pregnant?
So we struggled getting pregnant with my first, not with my daughter. I didn't I didn't get married till I was 33 or 34. Oh. Um,
Who's
30.
counting?
Yeah, yeah. So it was later in life, but I just thought as a woman, like you just, sorry, have sex,
Pregnant.
you
Yeah.
get pregnant. You
Yeah.
just get pregnant.
Hmm.
I didn't realize there was a science behind it, and there had to be a certain time, and blah blah blah.
Well, because for
So
so
we,
many, it is just about you have
yeah,
sex and you get
exactly.
pregnant.
And
But that's
people
what
were
we're
just
all
like, "Oh, I
trying
didn't
not
even
to
know I
do.
was pregnant."
Right.
Right. So I was like, "Oh, okay, that's just easy, right? You get married, you
Hmm.
get pregnant."
Hmm.
Yeah, little did I know. And we sought out a fertility doctor in Chicago, and
For your dot for the first
to get
pregnancy.
pregnant. Yeah,
Okay.
and basically, I I was lacking progesterone. So my
Okay.
body, I've found through the years, does not absorb hormones and vitamins. So I have to do a lot of extra work to keep myself healthy. Just something my body just I get caffeine affects me, just in crazy ways. I
Okay.
don't do good with medicine.
Hmm.
And so they did that. I started a ointment or, I don't know what it was,
Progesterone cream,
suppository kind of
probably.
thing,
Yeah.
cream. Yeah. And got pregnant and thought we lost her about a month in. Thank goodness she was hanging on right at the top. So she stayed. And then I figured, okay, great. I'm pregnant now. Okay.
Life
Year
is
in,
good.
whatever it was,
Hmm.
let's try again.
Hmm.
And no, no, no. So then we were in Virginia at the time, by that time, and went to a fertility doc. I call them fertility doctors. I know they're called infertility, but I like to say the positive side of it.
Yes.
So we went through 2 rounds of IVF.
So what was the time period between when you had your daughter and then you started again?
So I had her at 37, November 30, November when I was 37. My birthday is in April. So 37 and a half. When the second round of IVF, I don't know what month it was, but it, I mean, everything was fine. My husband was fine. I had so many eggs, like they gave me so much, to produce so many eggs, but it didn't stick,
Like,
literally. And that was when I was 40. So probably 2.5 years we tried.
so
And
it,
really the doctor was like, "You're 40. That's the
yes,
only there's," and it wasn't meant to be, that sort of thing.
yes.
So
So
two and a half
but
years.
it even took you several years to get pregnant with your daughter. It's
It took us probably a year.
a
Well,
year.
okay, so we got pregnant on our second wedding anniversary.
Okay. Okay. That's
Hmm.
not too bad.
Yeah.
Not too bad.
Yeah, because we knew, because we were with the doctor, and she's like, "Okay, you have to have sex this weekend," and it was our anniversary weekend.
Let me set the time and then
Yeah,
put it on
no,
the
exactly.
calendar. Hey, but
Well,
anniversary, that's
yeah.
perfect.
So we actually know her moment of conception, which
It's
is
so
kind of
funny
wild.
that you're sharing this because I went through my own
Mm.
infertility
Yeah.
struggles, and I actually was able to get pregnant, but I couldn't seem to keep the pregnancy, and it was a
Oh.
similar thing that I wasn't producing enough progesterone in the second half of my
Mm.
cycle to sustain the pregnancy, and went through all of that. And
Ugh.
at the time, your heart so badly wants
Oh
a baby,
gosh.
and you go through a lot. And I ended up having what they call the luteal phase defect, which just
Mm.
meant that my body didn't produce enough progesterone in the second part of the or after I conceived. It
Okay.
just didn't
Okay.
wasn't enough. And I was really blessed. I was living in Arizona at the time, and I got hooked up with a really awesome husband and wife. She was the OBGYN and he was the infertility guy. And
Mm.
she got me in to see him. And there was a treatment at the time. It wasn't IVF, but it was just almost IVF. It's where I
Mm-hmm.
had the injections,
Mm-hmm.
and they monitored your eggs, and you knew exactly
Right.
when you were going to ovulate. And then they gave you a shot for that. And then it was like, okay, this is
Oh
your window.
gosh. Yes.
So I pretty much could put that on the calendar exactly when my children were conceived, and
Yeah. Isn't
I
that
was
crazy?
blessed. I
Wow.
was blessed to be able to do that 3 times. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's really something when you're going through that. And
Yeah.
there is so much grief that we
Oh
experience
gosh.
when
Yeah.
we're
So
going
many
through that.
layers. So many
So many
layers of
layers.
challenge, and you don't even realize it. I was letting my daughter down. I was letting my husband down. My body was letting my
Hmm.
family down. I had moments, and you'll love this, you'll really love this, that I haven't shared with a lot of people though. Because I had one child, and I was driving in a cab. My daughter and I were going to the airport, and she was probably 4 at the time. And it was a person I knew who was driving me to the airport. And when are you going to have your second child? When are you going to have
Oh
your
boy.
second child? And I said, well, you know what? And I didn't want to get into it. And I said, Marina's enough. This is good. And he basically for 20 minutes berated me about being
Oh
selfish
no.
and a horrible mom, that I wouldn't give my
Mm.
daughter another child.
Oh dear.
And and my daughter was sitting there at the time.
And of course he doesn't know and she doesn't know, right?
And I'm
What
not going to
you've been
sit,
through.
like, I don't
Right?
know you. You don't
None
need
of
to
your
know me.
business.
I almost should have, but then I was
Mhm.
like, well, that's just mean. I don't need to bring that. I think I was just so shocked
Yeah, what a
at
sense of
what,
entitlement from him. And it was a man,
or assuming maybe I just
assuming.
want one child. Why myself? I mean, that affected me,
I can't
and I'm
imagine
like,
that
oh
it
my
wouldn't.
God. Yeah. And then we looked into adopting, and I said, I have to be okay with this.
Hmm.
I just have to be okay with what the world, the universe, God, what it has
Hmm.
given me.
Hmm.
And I remember thinking that my family wasn't enough.
Oh,
And I remember sitting, I'm going to cry. I remember sitting on the floor when I realized this. And my daughter came up to me, and we were just playing, the three of us. Mommy crying, mommy crying. And she was born 40. So she was 2.5 years old, still young. Mommy crying, mommy crying. And at that moment, I realized this is enough. This is my family. I don't
that's
have to make
beautiful.
excuses. I don't have to, this is it. And I remember just crying tears of like joy, because, and of course there's still moments that I don't feel that, but it was that moment that this is it. This is my family. I mean, I look back now, and she's 18, and with my parents both passed, I have 3 brothers, and we talk about stories that I've forgotten about some things that's happened. And that's one of those things that I think my daughter will only have her memories.
Yes.
She won't have memories with with her siblings to
I
say, oh God, I remember that. That's my one.
That's her heartache. That's her
That's my
heartache.
heartache. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
get that because my mom passed a couple years ago and my dad has dementia, so
Yeah.
the memories are many
Mhm.
of them are gone, and I've been realizing that over this past year or so that it's all this, the siblings are the only ones that know some of these memories, or maybe they don't even
Right.
remember the memories that I remember.
Yeah.
And it is
It's
a
heartbreaking.
grief there. It
Yeah.
is
And
sad
once
there.
Jean and I are gone, then it's just her.
Yeah.
And she has
Um,
great cousins, but it's not the
it's
same.
interesting when you begin to think about that because you don't think about that until something comes up, like you
Yeah.
losing your parents and then
Right.
realizing that
Right.
it's the siblings that carry on those memories.
Mhm.
But what a beautiful moment that you were actually able
Mm.
to look at your family and have the gratitude that the blessing, seeing the blessing instead of seeing the loss, that you were
Right.
able to realize that. I mean, I think that's pretty powerful. That's a
Yeah.
pretty powerful moment.
It was. I can still feel it, like I can feel it in my body.
I know.
Because it
Yeah.
was pretty wonderful. Yeah. And then
So,
she'd be like, why can't I have a brother? Why don't I have a
oh,
brother? And she'd go to friends' houses. It's so funny because the world, it's just so extraordinary, right? She'd go to friends' house. I want to go to my friend's house that have like, we had a neighbor that had like four siblings. And she'd come home. She was exhausted because she wasn't used to like being with all these kids, and she'd want to be there just to be with everybody. And then she'd have friends over, and she's like, Mommy, can they go home?
I'm exhausted.
I'm exhausted. Yeah. And I don't want them to play with my stuff. It's like, because
Oh,
everything was hers too.
right.
So
That's
it's
interesting.
kind of funny. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
But
So,
everything, it always works out. It's the way it's supposed to be.
yeah.
She
Well,
doesn't know what she doesn't know. I just
mhm,
know what I think she's missing, but
mhm.
she's not missing it because she doesn't know it. And that was a big revelation for me too.
And how did you I know she was very young there, but how did you
Hmm.
tell her why there were no siblings, or what did you tell her?
Golly, I don't think I told her till later, but I think I remember saying something. I don't know how old she was, but I think, gosh, I don't know exactly, but I think in my head there's a memory of me saying we tried or something like that. God, I have this really weird foggy memory now that you
Mhm.
asked me that, but I don't remember. I can't follow it through.
Right. No,
So
I'm
I'm
sure
sure we
you
told her. And when
yeah.
she was older, we definitely did. And she knows that whole story I told you
Mhm.
about trying to get pregnant
Yeah.
now. And I probably told her when she was 10, 12, something like
Mhm.
that. But I think we said something like that earlier because
Mhm.
I am not one to hold things from her. I
Mhm.
probably tell her a little bit too much about life, but I want her to not be in the dark about things too.
Yeah, and it
I
wasn't
mean,
that
obviously, I'm not
mommy
going to tell her.
yeah, it wasn't that mommy didn't want to have another
No, no,
baby.
no,
You know,
no,
she
no,
but
no, no,
yeah, so trying to figure out how to
definitely
share that
not.
without it being
But she never, like, in my head, like in my heart, I don't feel like she ever was like mad at me or it wasn't
Mhm.
I don't get that that sense now that I think about it. Cause you know what, those 2.5 years are really kind of a blur
Mhm.
when I think about it. And we were just concentrating so much on making a baby and getting pregnant. I mean, it was like we were on a regiment, I stuck the thing in my stomach,
Yeah.
ongoing. It was
Yeah,
just,
it
that was
is
it.
because it's a
Yeah.
huge commitment and it's a
Right.
huge financial commitment
Oh
and
God.
yeah,
Yeah.
you have to really be
Hmm.
all in, and
Right.
I know, and
Right.
then the emotional roller
Oh
coaster
God.
of it, of it's time to make the baby, and then it's time to
Hmm.
see if I did make a baby, and then
Oh
that
yeah. We're on every 2 weeks.
devastation. Oh,
Every 2 weeks, gosh, it was horrible. And I remember a moment when it was probably at least a year and a half after when I was 40 that I realized, oh my God, I wasn't on the two week clock.
mm,
Like I had gotten my period and it wasn't like 2 weeks later, oh, I'm ovulating. Let's have sex.
yes.
And I remember going, oh my God, I went a whole month without thinking that.
Ah,
And that was a
it's
huge
a little
moment
bit
for me.
liberating that
It was.
yes.
Yeah, like, and it was all again, like, okay, everything's all right. Everything's as it's
Hmm.
supposed to, you
Okay,
know?
so the 2.5 years goes by, or where the two cycles of IVF go by, and then
Yeah.
you have to make the decision. We're not going to continue. So that must have been really difficult. Or were
Yeah, it
you
was.
ready? Were you ready to stop?
Well, financially, we couldn't do it.
Oh, I know it's so expensive.
Emotionally, we couldn't do it. We were just gonna do one, and then I said to my husband, we have to do one more." My mom and
Hmm.
dad wanted to pay, and we're like, "Okay, let's just do it." And my husband, I think he knew how taxing it was, just
Hmm.
on every aspect of our life. But we tried it, and after that, I was so exhausted and every mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, just done. And I was like, "Okay, we're gonna look into Catholic adoption, whatever." Da, da. And
Hmm.
then that turned into be just being exhausting too. And but we have to have another child. Like it was like, and then
Right.
I don't know what moment it was. Just maybe after I started seeing the therapist or psychiatrist or something that I just said, this is too much. Just accept.
So,
Um,
about how long after your second attempt before you started seeing the therapist, and the therapist was for the grief, right? At that point,
yeah,
were you feeling this disconnection at that point, or
probably.
yeah?
Yeah,
So
probably.
you're seeing this therapist specifically for grief. It was
Hmm.
specifically for that, or for this
Yeah,
loss.
yeah, I think so. Loss and
Hmm.
just probably, I just needed to talk to somebody.
Hmm.
I reached out to my girlfriends and I said, "Does anyone know anybody?"
Okay, so you went into
Yeah,
therapy,
yeah.
and I am sure that began to help you heal,
Oh
but
gosh, yeah.
you're still feeling something's not right.
Yep, yep.
And so tell me that again. How did you get from the therapist to the psychiatrist? The therapist said you need to
Therapist
go
said, yeah, I think
for
it's a little bit.
medication, probably, or
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
And that's when I found out I had ADD, and I went on Adderall, and that helped, of course.
Hmm.
And then just acknowledging and reading that book, which, believe it or not, I never made it through the book because of my ADD. I'm like, no, I got it. Okay, I'm done.
That's funny.
Which is hilarious, right? Um, and then just kind of accepting, like, okay, this makes sense. And going back in my life and seeing all the places where, oh, I'm so stupid, I can't get through this, or failing, or, not getting good grades and just thinking, oh, I'm stupid, I can't do this,
Oh gosh, that's just
yeah.
heartbreaking. It's
Oh yeah,
heartbreaking.
it was devastating, but it also taught me what I did do and what the tools that I created and the ways of coping that I used. And of course, I've coped in many a wrong way: eating, drinking, partying, buying too much, being too busy, all of the above, right? Coping mechanisms that we
Self-medicating,
use.
right?
Exactly. And meditating and yoga and working out,
Yeah, so you
all
were
healthy
trying
things also.
everything. Yes.
Yeah. And I think I've, had little moments of all of them throughout my life, but you have to find those to figure out what works. My biggest thing, which I try to instill in my daughter and myself, is find what works for you,
Mhm.
no matter what anybody thinks you should try or do, or find what works for you.
Yes, I think that's really important. And I'm really thinking about that moment when you realized you were ADD, and I imagine that must have just been such a relief. Like,
Oh, well, first I said there's no way,
okay,
because my
this is
limited
not me.
belief, this is not
Uh-huh.
me, my limited belief or theory or thought or education on someone with ADD, who's someone who can't function.
Okay.
I thought of it almost as like you're just stuck. I actually write. So we'll get to my book later, I know,
Okay.
but I actually write this part in my book. Like, my limited belief was someone who can't function, who can't hold a job, who can't be, who can, can't do it. But what I realized was there's so many different layers of it
Hmm.
that, because at that time I had a career in theater for 15 years. I had a personal training fitness business in Chicago for 15 years, whatever that was. So I was successful. Like, I did things. So when he said you have AD, I was like, There's no way."
So,
Then I did more research and realized, oh, yeah, you can function.
hmm.
It's just like any other disease or neurological whatever challenge you have. You can, because you need to, right? I needed to
Yes.
figure out a way to function and live.
But I think
um
sometimes when you're ADD or ADHD and you're not having medication to help you, it just makes
mm,
everything so much harder,
oh
right?
god,
Everything is
yeah,
harder,
it
really
is.
hard.
It
And you're
is, and that's
working
what I think
twice as
about.
hard as
Oh
anybody
gosh,
else.
yeah. Well, and you don't know. So yes, there was relief going, oh, well, that makes sense now. That
Hmm.
makes sense why I couldn't focus, and I get so mad when I was younger. I mean, my brothers, I'm sure, have stories that I couldn't communicate, or I was in a frenzy or whatever you think about when you can't function or there's too much stimulus,
Hmm.
when there's too much going on. That, I mean, I talk about in my book also, like, grew up with three brothers. There was always chaos in my house.
So no
Always.
sisters, just
No
brothers.
sisters, but even like four kids, there's just always stuff going on. And when it got to be too much for me, I didn't know how to react, and I didn't know how to cope. So I'd either scream and run down the hall, or scream at someone, or punch a pillow, or go and organize, which is what I found. So you need some outlet. So when I found that out, I was like, oh, I wish I knew when I was 12 years old that I had ADD. But back in the 60s, whenever that was, I was
They
born
didn't even know what it
66,
was.
70s.
Right.
No,
You were just a
you're just a
discipline
busy kid.
problem. You're,
Yes.
yeah, or
And
you're,
but I didn't have a discipline, which is really weird. All the report cards, like, 'cause we found them all in my mom's house, clearing things out. Lisa's such a delight. She's always smiling. She's always happy. She had C's and D's and, some B's, but always a delight to be around. Like, it doesn't sound like I had problems at school, like in
mhm.
school. I just had a problem in my head and also concentrating. So
Yes.
maybe that's what it was. But yeah, I mean, you just figure out ways to cope.
So I don't know which direction to go into next. I want to talk about your book and I want to talk about your business.
Mm,
Since you mentioned your book, let's talk about that a little
yeah.
bit. Let's talk about this book that you're writing.
Oh, goodness. Okay. So last January, well, during COVID, actually the end of 2020. So Leave It to Lisa is the name of my company used to be Leave It to Lisa. And so that's LITL. So when I was creating or training people to work for me or doing talks, I created the little system, LITL. And it's really 2 steps on how to let go and how to organize. So the first L is let it go. So what do you know you don't want? Just look around your room. What do you know you don't want? That's easy. It gets like it's an immediate reaction. Get that out. Donate it. Sell it. Remove it from your house. The I is intentional. So that's the stuff that takes a little bit more time. Like, do I want that dress that I never wore that I spent a fortune on? Do I want the grandma's china? Like, it takes some thought. Like, you have to be intentional on your decisions. T is transform, which are the next 2 steps are the outcome of taking the first 2 steps, which are not, simple, not easy. Transform. So you've transformed your space, you've transformed your life, you've made decisions, right? And then L, the last L is love it and live it. So I was like, I got to write my workbook. Like, I got to write this because I've been preaching it and talking about it and teaching it. And, I have it on my website. You can download it. Let me just get this book out. So I worked with a writer who I'd worked with before on a couple different projects, and we wrote it. And then I was talking to my marketing team, Loud and Clear Marketing, and Deb Haynes had a friend who was starting a writing group. I was like, I'll talk to her. I want to talk to her so I contacted them and I said, okay, I'd like to join the group. I have this book already. Let's go. So when I was telling the group about the book, they asked me more questions about my business and this and that. And I started telling them stories about my clients and, how it's difficult to let go of things and, how we all struggle with holding on to stuff and holding on to regrets or guilt or shame around things and one of the women was like, that's your book, Lisa. And I was like, wait, I already have a book. Like, I just want to get this workbook out there and, give it to people. And they're like, no, write that first. So I sat down and I have a dragon, like a headset, because I type horribly. And I just started talking to my dragon thing and it put everything on paper. And that was on my dad's birthday last year. So he would have been his 88th birthday. I started writing. And within a month, I think, or a month and a half, I didn't write, I voice to text 47,000 words.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
you had a lot to say.
And so's and, it didn't really make sense, but I was amazed at how many stories I had and how much growth how many things I held on to. And it was therapeutic for me to write it and to think about my clients and, oh gosh, I hold on to that too, or I've held this grudge, or and so
much more than just being about stuff.
Oh, it's so much more about stuff. So one of my favorite taglines that I created years ago was, and it takes a little thought to get this right, but listen, it's the stuff about your stuff isn't about your stuff. So the stuff we make up, right? The stuff we make up isn't about our stuff. Like, oh, I can't get rid of that. That's that. That's not about the stuff. It's about our stuff, like why we hold on. So talking about that and getting it out, I talked about my ADD and how, you keep things and you use things because they serve a purpose. Once they don't serve a purpose, you have to get rid of them or they just hold you back.
And so it's very, very difficult.
It's not easy. No.
And I've had to do a lot of letting go in the last 7 years. So having gone through a divorce and having to leave my big house that was full of stuff, moving into a 2-bedroom apartment and getting a storage locker,
right,
and then moving to a smaller 2-bedroom. Still had the storage locker, then moving into a townhouse where unfortunately got more stuff, but all along the way, letting go,
choosing.
and then choosing, and finally cleared out the storage locker. Then having my brick and mortar office, which
had to clear out
June of 2020 COVID. oh my gosh, clearing that out. Wow, it is, and it's not easy. And for me now, since my mom passed away, those are the difficult things. Oh,
Mhm.
this was my mom's, or my mom gave me this.
Yeah, yeah,
So, oh gosh, it's really hard. And
it is.
moving again, now I've moved again, so getting rid of some stuff, and
Yeah.
and even some clothes. And this having the weight loss business that I have, it's those clothes that you just know you're going to get back in one day.
Right, right, right.
Keep saying, I'm going to lose that 10 pounds and that
Yeah.
dress is going to fit again. And how long has that dress been sitting there waiting for me to fit
Hmm.
it? That's
And
really hard.
here's the question you ask, and here's the question I ask to my clients. Why are you holding on to it? Is it because you wish, you hope that you're going to get that weight, or do you think about that outfit and how you wore it and what you felt in it, how you felt in it?
Hmm. Right?
So there are different questions you ask about why you're holding on to something. Usually when people lose weight, and you know this, I was in the fitness business. I've been up and down in weight. I've been all over the place. And right now I have a bunch of sizes because of COVID in my closet. So, you
I
know,
know. I got those stretchy
ooh,
pants.
yeah, exactly. How many more sweatpants can I put in? But if you do lose that weight, and not to put stress on you or stress if, but aren't you going to go out and buy a new pair of pants anyway to celebrate? And or if you get into that heavier weight, I have pants in there that I was like, I hope I never fit again, because I bought them because I was heavy. But there's another pair of pants that I bought because I was heavy and I felt really good in them.
Hmm.
So I would rather keep the pants that are the same size, 12, 14, 16, whatever, 18 size, that I felt good in, and not the one that I was like, oh, I have to buy a bigger size. And these are the only thing of it. Like,
Yeah.
keep those,
Uh-huh.
and that's what we do. That's what the organizing mentors do. We don't care what our clients' houses look like when we get there. I mean, we care. I always say this, we always care, we care deeply. But
Hmm.
what we really care about is how you feel when we leave or in your space after we're done. That's the goal.
Yeah, and we're in this interesting time now where we're all hunkered down at home. We're not going to offices. We're not going
Mm,
out to
don't
events.
need a
We're
lot
not
of that
going to network.
clothes.
I
Mm-mm.
know. And so I've
Yeah,
got these dresses and these work clothes, and I'm like, am I ever going to wear these again?
right, right,
Am I? I don't know. It's been 2 years now. We're into COVID,
right.
so, and I think everything has gotten more casual
Definitely,
in the
definitely.
world, or the long dresses for the galas that we might have gone to, and it's like, am I
Yeah,
ever going to another gala? Maybe, but maybe I'd buy a new dress, like you
yeah,
said.
yeah, exactly.
I
Yeah,
have
no, it's
trouble.
and
I
so
have trouble getting rid of the clothes. That's one of my
it is hard.
difficulties.
It is hard. And here's my theory with women on not necessarily clothes, but purses, shoes, and jewelry.
Mm.
So if we need a little, I don't retail therapy, right? If you will,
Hmm.
you always go to sale rack, because if you
Hmm.
find a deal, awesome. Then
Feels so
then
much
it's
better when
win-win.
you find
Yeah,
a
because it's
deal.
on sale. Or purses, shoes, and jewelry always fit.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Oh, that's so true.
So we don't have to try if we don't like our upper body. We don't have to try on a top. We don't have to, we don't like older body. You don't have to put on another pair of jeans that don't fit or fit too big or whatever. But purses, jewelry, shoes,
Oh my goodness. And that was as I was moving this last time, going through all my jewelry. And it's like,
always.
oh my God, I have so much stuff. And I'm
Yeah,
like, I don't have enough days in the rest of my life
no,
to wear this stuff. So
right.
I did get rid of some of it, but it's really hard. And I inherited some jewelry from my mom, and it's beautiful.
Mm,
And I'm hoping, to get to wear that, or at some point, maybe I'll have it repurposed into
yeah,
different
yeah.
designs. But yeah, that's tough. And then the other area that I really struggle with is now that my children are grown and
Hmm.
have left the nest, I've been pretty good about getting rid of like every piece of artwork they ever made. Okay, a lot of that's gone, but there were certain baby things that
Hmm.
my dream, my hope is that one day when they have children that I can pass those things along. So I will say I've gotten it down to like one container for each. And it's
Wow,
not
good for
it's not
you.
like it was, but that's taken a
Yeah.
lot of letting go. And my daughter, who's 30 now, and she's living in Texas in a
Mm.
house. I've started just packing it up and mailing it to her. And I'm
Mail
like,
it to her. Yeah.
you deal with it.
Christmas presents, birthday presents. Yeah, I always say that. Wrap things up and give them to them.
I
And then
know. And
then they have to deal with it.
I know. And there are no grandchildren, yet. And
Yeah,
because some of those
yeah.
things I'm just like, oh, I want a grandbaby so I can pass this along. So I had one big moment where we were big readers.
Mm,
Growing up, and then my mother, she bought books for my children just nonstop, and my children voracious readers. I think we probably had
nice.
100 of those, what are the little golden books?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And just so many books. And it's like, okay, I am hoarding all these books for
Mhm.
my grandchildren one
Yeah.
day. And I read something, or I can't remember, but it was an aha moment for me. It's like that is stagnating. Those books,
Mhm.
the energy of those books, they're just sitting there for 20 years, 25
Yeah,
years. Release them to someone
yeah,
who can enjoy them.
right.
And
And
when
use
they
them now.
have children, I can always get more books.
Yeah.
So I packed them all up. I donated them to Loudon
Oh, nice.
Literacy, and it
Nice.
really
I was just
felt,
gonna say loud and
yeah,
lit.
it felt
Yep,
really good, a little bittersweet, but at least
of
I was
course.
like, yeah, it's just sitting here doing no one any good. Why not
Yeah,
let those books help children that
yeah.
don't have
Repurpose
access
the
to books?
love. Repurpose, recycle the love. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
it's
so
good.
that was a big moment for me. That was because it is, yeah, I can only imagine. I imagine you have quite the stories, and anywhere from hoarders, right? That's
Well, we don't necessarily work with hoarder. Like I draw the line, and I think I knew I couldn't work with severe hoarders because of my
okay.
ADD.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
because I can't. There's only so much stimulus. Like I'm fine. Like people even ask me all the time, like, how can you be in a house that's like cluttered, Chris? Because it's not my house, and
Uh-huh.
I see the hope and the potential in the house. And the
Mhm.
clients reached out to me, so I have to be there. If I get overwhelmed, and actually you read the story in the book about walking into this gentleman's house where I was overwhelmed. Like, how can I even begin to help? But I have to rechannel myself. Like I'm here for him.
Mhm.
Take it all off of me and channel.
Because you looked
Why
around
am
and
I
you
here?
said, "Well, where do I start?"
You
Right?
Where do I start? Which is a lot of my clients' houses, and
Mhm.
that's why I see that overwhelm in them too because they're living it. You
Mhm.
know. But so I draw the line. I always say feces and dead animals.
Okay, I agree.
Yeah, and
Agree.
there's too much stimulus. Like if my all my senses are overwhelmed, I can't focus, and that's
Mhm.
just something I've learned with me and with myself. And even my I've six organizers now, six employees. I call them my team mentors.
Mhm.
Um, that are kind of the same. They're all mini me's. They get it. I always say we're a bunch of. We used to be 50-year-old women, 50-year-old women. Now I have a 30-ish, a couple 30-year-old. So 30 to 50-year-old women who just get it. We're just there for the client. We're 100% focused on them. No outcome. We don't care what the outcome is as long as they're happy, and we're just there for them. And just because we're the experts, I was just talking to a client today, a potential client this morning, and I said, just because we're the experts doesn't mean we're the expert in your home. So if we give you a suggestion and you're like, I don't know, like be honest with us. I'm giving you
Mhm.
permission to say no, it's not going to work because it has to work for you. Come in as the second, third organizing company with some of my clients where everything looks perfect, but they can't find anything
Oh,
or it doesn't make sense to them.
okay.
You can Marie Kondo, you can
Mhm.
whatever life or whatever all those techniques are, but if you can't find anything, or if everything's just locked in a box somewhere labeled, is it helping you? Some people
No.
love like that, but most of my clients just want to know where their stuff is and have their mental clarity, and
Make their
calmness
space workable.
for them. Yeah,
Because I know
yeah.
for me, you know, just having someone give me permission to get rid of something
Hmm.
really
Hmm.
helps. Because you're
Yeah,
waffling and it's like, but just needing that little bit of, or like
yeah,
you said, just helping you think it through.
yeah, yeah. And keep it if you
Keep it.
want to keep that dress, if you want to keep those things from him, keep them. Let's
Hmm.
again let it go. The first step in the little system, let it go. What are the things you don't want? Sometimes we
Hmm.
don't have to work any more than that. Just let it go. What are the things you don't want?
Yes.
Clears your path. That gives you confidence because most people are like, I don't know what I don't want. Yeah, you do. You do. Just you have to just say, look on your bookshelf. Like you don't take all the books off your bookshelf. Like my bookshelf behind me. Look around. Do you want that book? Yeah. Not one? Nope. Take it off. Don't
Hmm.
empty your bookshelf. Just like creates more of a mess. but you know what you want, you know what you don't want. By the time someone calls me, they've exhausted their energy trying to do it themselves. They've worked with another organizer. They've tried to work with their family and friends. They've given up. They finally called and researched an organizer. That's almost like my favorite moment when someone calls me, because I know they've gone through all of that and they've said, I can't do this alone. It's like someone with weight loss, right? Same with you.
Yes.
Like they've done it all themselves. They've tried. They've been on every diet. They've read every organizing book. They can't do it alone, and they need somebody to help
I like
them,
that. So mentor, coach, that's really what you are.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I know for me, it wasn't something I could do all at once. When it was over time that certain things became less important. And I was like, okay, I don't need that anymore.
Yeah.
I was, and I think mostly hanging on to certain things for that emotional connection. But then you can narrow that down and say, well, I don't need 20 things to remember my mom by. Maybe I can get by with 5.
Right.
She gonna know that I didn't keep that dish? No.
Yeah, no. And you know what? Grandma and mom don't care.
Yeah.
They want you to feel relief. I had my nephew was in and he broke something. It wasn't Christmas this year, last year. He was so upset. He broke one of my wedding china things. Oh, Auntie Lisa, I'm so sorry. It's like, why? It's made to be used. If it's broken, it's broken. He got red wine on my tablecloth. So what? My mom used to always say, we'll always know Christmas 2020 because of this stain. Like we used it. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. You got to use the stuff. Grandma doesn't mind.
I love that too, because my mother and I used to have this. It'd be like, why aren't we using our good china? Why aren't we using the crystal? What are we saving it for? The special occasions. And I'm like, okay, how old am I now? And how many times have I used this? It's like time to start using it. And you know what? Like you said, if it gets broken, so what? At least we enjoyed it. At least we enjoyed it. Yeah. And that's the other thing, having all that stuff that we probably in our generation got, all the wedding stuff and the crystal and the china. As I was moving and trying to get rid of some of that stuff, nobody wants that stuff anymore.
No, it's very difficult. We can't sell it. We can donate it. We can donate it or pass it on to family, but
I know. I was trying to pawn some of that stuff off on my daughter, and she's like, yeah, no, I don't want your fancy crystal glasses or your china.
So have your girlfriends over, have a nice
crystal, exactly,
and put hot dogs on it. Who cares?
I know, absolutely. It's like enjoy it, because why not? And I finally got rid of some of the crystal, which it killed me to do it, but they were little wine glasses. It was a Waterford, and I loved it, but they were little, the pour was so small.
Little cordials or something, whatever they are. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like, my wine glass is much bigger than that. So finally let that go, but all this moving helped.
See, so you were making all these intentional decisions. You had to think about it. Like, really, do I really need it? And if it's yes, then you put it back on your shelf and you use it the next day. And if it breaks, whatever.
Yeah.
But they're tough decisions, and holding on to stuff, which is so hard. Like even like going back to like not getting pregnant, I held on to what my body couldn't do. Well, my body couldn't do it. Why am I still holding on to that guilt and to that shame around it?
Yeah.
Let it go. It's not serving you. It's just not.
No.
Yeah. And it's not easy. I'm not saying. I talk a lot about like the Nike swoosh, just do it. Well, a lot of people can't just do something. Can't just get rid of anything or just stop eating or just go for a run. Like it takes some getting ready and preparing yourself.
And having the support and all of that. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what we do too, just like you with your clients. Like we're there as a friend, a sister, a cousin, a daughter, just to talk things through and to brainstorm and create a plan.
So now you have this thriving business, the Organizing Mentors.
Yeah.
And her tagline is reclaim your space mentally and physically.
Yeah.
So Lisa, if someone is ready or even just wants to talk to you first,
Yeah,
what's the best way for someone to get in touch with you?
Well, I'm on Facebook, which is easy. I'm also my website, theorganizingmentors.com with an S. It's a long one, but it's a good one. And you can set up a call right on there. I think there's a consultation. And if they mention Jennifer 7, I'll give them a free consultation for sure. And would love to also mention the name of my book, because it's not what you'd expect. It's not really an organizing title. It's called 17 Spatulas and the Man Who Fried an Egg.
Okay, explain that. You told me, but explain what that title means.
And we're still looking for a tagline. Actually, like this morning, I had a team meeting with my marketing team, my editor, and my publisher, because I needed a tagline for that, because that doesn't explain holding on to stuff, right? It's like, is it a cookbook, Lisa? Like,
right.
What? And everybody who knows me knows I don't cook. So, I mean, I can fry an egg. So that's, that's about the best. But so when I was going through it, two of the main stories, and I think the people that I learned the most from myself and how, and why we hold on to stuff, were two specific clients. One, and I've changed all the names, and all the names of the characters in my book, the clients in my book, are all names of someone in my family, in my immediate family.
Oh,
so
I love
changed
that.
all the names. So the 17 Spatulas lady, her name is Alice, and that was my mom's name. It is my mom's name, still my mom's name. And I learned from her. So real quick, when I exaggerate, I always say, it took me 17 minutes to do this, or I have 17 books to read, or I don't know, 17 is just my go-to.
It's your number.
Yeah. And
That's funny.
I know, it's 17. I don't know. And so there was a woman who I met who had 17 spatulas. 17 spatulas. I mean, that's a lot of spatulas. That's a lot. Did
she like to cook, or was she a cook?
She loved to cook.
Okay.
That was her thing. And she loved cooking so much. Like that was her gift to her family, and she loved it. And you'll have to read in the book, but the whole point was she had a reason for each spatula.
Oh, okay.
And sure. They had, and my mom was the same way. My grandmother's the same, like had a purpose. Every spatula, had a purpose. And what I learned from her was, it doesn't matter what something looks like, as long as you love it and it feels good for you. You can buy some newfangled spatula, but it's not the same. How holding on to stuff isn't about something looking good or working for you. It has to work for the person who's holding on to it. Like those little cordial glasses, they can work for you.
Right.
They were beautiful. They were Waterford. Oh my gosh, why would you get rid of that? They didn't work for me, right? So that's Alice, and that's the 17 spatulas. And then there was a gentleman who you worked with, who is the man I said, I walked in his house and I was overwhelmed. Okay. So first time I was really overwhelmed in a project. And I worked with him, I think 8 months, probably about 5 to 10 hours a week for 8 months, every week. And we had holidays and, this and that every once in a while. But
that's a lot of time.
It was a lot of time. He had overcome a lot. He had gone through a divorce. His dog died. It was a lot. There was a path through his house. He had a townhouse, path to the basement, path to the kitchen. You couldn't go upstairs.
Did he live alone?
He lived alone.
Okay.
Yeah. And wonderful man. And what I learned from him was extraordinary. You have to read the book. But but what I learned from him was, you can't help someone until you help yourself. And I was honored enough to be able to help him, and for him to let me in his life, because he trusted me. And that takes a lot. I mean, I always say that to most of my clients, like, I am humbled and honored that you're letting us work with you. Because it's like, right? It's like your clients. We see them, not literally, but we see them naked, like all their fears, all their history, all their obsession, all their whatever. So to let us in to that world is truly, like, it's humble. It's really an honor. And so that's The Man Who Fried an Egg. Yeah. And you'll have to read the story, because
I can't wait.
I can't give it away.
Don't give it away. So Lisa, what is this? What do you think this book is going to be out
Well, we were talking about it today and we were hoping for May 1st. There's just a lot of moving parts. I'm hoping for spring, But if you're on my Facebook, join my Facebook group. And I have private, the Organizing Mentors group. So if you want to be on that, just look up that. And I'm putting a lot of that info out on there.
So anyone can be in your group?
Yeah, the Facebook page, anybody can join, but I have a kind of a private, the Organizing Mentors group. But if you want to become a member, just ask, to become a member of that. The Facebook page is more, well, we post all the time, but I think we're going to start posting a lot more on the group now that we've had our meeting and we're trying to really get the excitement around it, because I think it's going to be wonderful. And I think it's a universal thing that people just hold on to stuff mentally and physically. So I'm really proud of it, and I'm amazed that I actually got it out. And
I can't wait.
Words to say.
Yeah. I think we're going to have you come back and we'll do another chat once the book is out. That would be great fun. And maybe in that podcast, we can really talk about some of these stories of your clients, because I'm sure that there are many listeners that could relate and it could inspire them to perhaps start to make some changes.
I'm hoping so. And to, again, take away the stigma of guilt and fear
of stuff.
Holding on.
Yeah,
of
holding
stuff,
on to
like
stuff.
literally of stuff, and why we hold on, and just being the big takeaway is like anything, you have to acknowledge what it is that you're holding on to. Like the guilt around not getting pregnant. Like I had to acknowledge that I'm feeling this before I could cleanse myself of it or get over it or hold on to it. Sometimes, sometimes you want to stick your dirty diapers and hold on to it.
Making the choice. You're making the choice. You're being intentional about it. And with my weight loss clients, I say that too. It's like, if you choose to eat it, that's okay, but let's make it a choice. Let's not
enjoy it.
And enjoy it. And don't make it an unconscious choice. Make it a conscious choice. If you're going to eat the candy bar, give yourself permission, enjoy every bite. And that's okay. As long as you're being mindful about it or like you said, intentional about it.
A lot of people don't want to be aware. They don't want to be aware because once, and myself included, I'm not saying anything that I haven't gone through myself and realized myself. Sometimes I hate that I'm aware of things because then I have to make a choice. Right?
It's like, I had to make a choice if I'm going to eat that candy bar.
Why didn't I just eat it? Why didn't I just throw it in my mouth?
Yeah. So true. So true.
Yeah.
So, okay. The organizingmentors.com.
Yeah.
Here's your website. And then the Organizing Mentors on Facebook. And then private group, is it the same name, but it's just.
Yeah, the Organizing Mentors group. So you can, it's a private group. I just have to allow you in it.
Yeah,
but
sure.
If you want to join, of course we want people. It's just not something you can find online. The Organizing Mentors Facebook page, you can.
Gotcha.
So lots of different outlets too.
Yeah.
And I'm on Instagram. I think it's just the Orgment, or it's a weird one, but you can put in the Organizing Mentors on Instagram. We're not really a Pinterest kind of place. And even on Instagram, like I said, I think I said earlier, like, I'm not all about perfect pictures because those aren't my clients. They're just not attracted to me.
And I know, Lisa, that you'll get on Facebook every once in a while and you'll do a Facebook Live and you'll do a talk and you'll give some tips about switching from winter to spring or spring to fall or spring to summer in your closet. And so very helpful things that you might not think about, but it's really a good idea. A lot of really great ideas. Yeah.
Right.
So just to remind our listeners that Lisa is willing to do a free consultation for you. It's a $200 value. You could put in that you listen to the Unbreakable Spirit podcast or Jennifer 7, whatever works for you. And she will be more than happy to get you started with her little system, which I love. Love that. So thank you, Lisa. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your story. And it's really amazing stuff. And I'm so glad we get to talk about it. And I know we're going to have you back when that book comes. So we're looking forward to that.
And I'm very excited for you with the new podcast too, because I think it's
very
well needed. And I'm glad that you just took it upon yourself. Okay, let's do it.
I just feel like however we can help women or men, by sharing our stories.
Right.
And that you can get through stuff. That's another stuff.
Stuff about your stuff isn't about your stuff. Exactly.
All right. Well, you have a wonderful day and thank
Okay,
you.
you too.
Okay,
Bye,
bye.
everybody.
Thank you for joining us on Unbreakable Spirit. To learn more about Jennifer and her holistic weight loss approach, visit her website at 7company.com. That's the number 7company.com. And please join us for our next episode, where we'll hear from more women who overcame hardship and learned how to thrive.